Thank you. She's having I'll be there. Thank you, Dorothy.
It's okay. We can keep later here.
I grew up in Queens and then I was in New Jersey for a little bit and I've been in Boston for like 11 years. How about you?
Chicago.
Love Chicago.
The one city.
The affordable city.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you from here.
Yeah.
Very historical city, founded by Baptiste Point du Sable.
That's right.
Yeah, Haitian descent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Museum and
Museum.
Hyde Park, and maybe I get up in the bus. That's good.
Very straight, yeah. Federal.
That's nice to know.
But I've been here for. I think I'm here the Indy City. Name came from politics.
I'll just,
there.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
We're on the final touches on our presentation, not presentation, but the slides. They're Cheyenne is uploading them. I'm the Van Cabal, I am have the honor and the privilege of serving as the executive director of the Office of Police Economy and Transparency. It's now 11 o'clock, right? We're gonna start this meeting. This meeting is gonna start slightly different than usual because many of you, welcome, the new members, many of you are new. So we're taking a half an hour perhaps to kind of give you some basics of the agency and what your powers are, what your duties are, and how to do your job. And then we'll get to the meat of stuff right after that. Okay? But again, I wanted to first and foremost welcome all of you, and certainly the one returning member that we have present with us today. And the new members, I appreciate, we all appreciate, the city appreciates the work that you're going to be doing on behalf of the city, the presence of the city of Boston, particularly around police accountability and transparency within the city. So, and so for me, the portion that I'm talking about will be, a brief orientation, okay? And we'll go through some slides to kind of just guide you. You'll have most of the information in your binder, so you'll have an opportunity to look at those at home. And furthermore, we'll do additional training, honing in on some specific topics. They'll give you better tools to continue your work. So this is the first one. We're excited to have you. I'm excited that we're able to execute this. I want to, also before I move on to the slides, thank the whole team for putting this together. This is our second meeting of the week. We had on Tuesday, we had the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel meeting that went well. So we're excited for 2025 and get the shot. So I want to again give kudos to everyone. You'll get to meet them later. There's a part where I'll give you an update. I introduce the team at that point, but I wanted to mention how much of work they put together this last week. And so I'm gonna give what I just asked that people around and for you all to know, many of you know, had to do the paperwork, had to do trainings, online trainings and things like that. So I appreciate you again sort of pushing through so we can have this meeting today, particularly because as I mentioned to many of you before, we have to do these meetings at minimum quarterly and we're pushing at the end of the quarter, right, of the first quarter of 2025, which is why we're sort of going to this week as well. Okay. And so, Diane, can you go to the next?
You have the.
I have this, okay, thank you. I will try to do it. Can you show me again, please? No, you can show it.
It should work just fine.
Yeah, I'll try some. Okay, all right, so. Not very technical savvy. All right,
We all need some help, that's good.
Cheyenne is the best at this,
Very
so
good.
thank you, Cheyenne, for your help. Let me just kind of, get used to the clicking real quick, all right? So we're in this stage, this is the agenda for today, okay? And again, we're sort of in this first block of welcoming and your introductions. At this point, I also ask you, after I kind of go through the agenda, we'll ask you to actually introduce yourself briefly. All the members, again, most of you are new, so we can kind of start getting to know each other a little bit as well, okay? And we'll do, as I mentioned, an orientation that, that'll go through the powers and duties, some reviews of the cases, right? How you review the case and what the process is, meeting procedures, which is important, right? For us to do in quorum and how we vote, and minutes and things like that. And then we'll go into, the official part, right? Technically, we could have had this portion because it's training, in private setting, but we're doing it today all together. But the official part of the meeting starts here, where we'll go into, again, reviewing the minutes of 2020, the last meeting that we had, which was in November. Fortunately, we have at least one member from the last meeting, so maybe we can push that through. And I'll give a small report, which is traditional, that the AD gives a report every meeting to just kind of say this is what's going on with the agency. And hopefully, again, we'll schedule some meetings, right? Because typically we pick all the meetings ahead of time. Hopefully, we'll get to do all those meetings, so you anticipate when they are. We do sometimes have to move them, but at least you have some, some prediction in terms of when you're expected to be here. We'll discuss the meeting, then we'll go into this executive session. We'll talk more about it, but this is when we discuss the cases. We have a few cases for you to kind of just again start get going, and so on. And then finally, we'll exit executive session, which executive session is a private setting, right? Not the public can't attend it, but then we go back into the public session and do the voting on the cases, right, that we discussed, and other matters, and then we'll adjourn. Okay? This could be, sometimes these meetings are quick, sometimes they take very long, right? This is probably one of those days that's gonna be a long day. So bear with us, we'll ask the questions, we'll move the process forward, and we'll get the job done, okay? All right, so let's jump into the slide deck, please. Oh, Cheyenne, I got it, thank you. Last meeting we did, Cheyenne was out, so now I gotta get used to doing this. So we'll, thank you. That's the Lene. That's the Lene, our new deputy director, since she spoke out. I'll introduce her briefly, but she just reminded me to make sure that everybody can choose.
Hi, my name is Sam Harold. I am excited for this group, and I work as a youth defense attorney in Boston.
Tanisha Dillion, Deputy Director of Youth Options Unlimited. We're a youth agency actually right at 7 Palmer, and we serve justice involved youth that are 14 through 24 years.
Jeffo Florissin, aka Pastor Kiki, founder of the Rock of Christian Ministries. I'm also the executive director for True Alliance Center and chair of Haitian Americans United Incorporated.
Reggie Smalls, I'm the pastor of Bethel Pentecostal Church, which is located on Humboldt Ave. in Dorchester or Roxbury, depending on who you talk to. And I'm bivocational pastor, so I also work for a company called Safeguard Security, helping people get alarm systems and cameras.
Mark Perez, I'm a high school senior at the John D. O'Brien. I also work as a youth ambassador at Santana Youth Force, youth council for Councilor at Large Henry Santana.
I'm Josh Dankoff. I work at a place called Citizens for Criminal Justice, statewide advocacy work, and some international work with UNICEF.
No, it's okay. We'll do that touch. Let's jump into again the presentation. I'll start with, there's a long history of why OPAT exists, but I'm going to give you a brief synopsis here, and we'll discuss more details of what that means in the future, okay, in terms of what the history and how we got here, why the agency was created. But essentially, the agency was created in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd, right? I'm sure you all remember COVID happened and George Floyd had been murdered. And throughout the country, cities across America, leading up to that, we're looking at reform police, but that was sort of like the peak that led to protests in the city of Boston, specifically the mayor of the city of Boston, then Marty Walsh, created a task force of members of the community, members from the legal community, members from the, from pastors and so on that made recommendations to create OPAT, okay? And OPAT really was created through an ordinance. It's law within the city of Boston, okay? So our job is to execute the ordinance, which you have a copy of which in your binder, okay? So a lot of the information that I'll be sharing is out of that space, right? Literally, you can see again, the purpose of it, I think, is almost the first or second line. We are to serve as to provide a single point of entry for individuals with concerns and complaints relating to the Boston Police Department and its officers and sworn personnel to be heard and responded to. So we are, created to sort of be an alternative and a single point of entrance for individuals in the city of Boston that have issues, complaints against the Boston Police Department, okay? And we exist primarily to investigate complaints, which this is what this board primarily does, right? The CRB. We'll talk more about that. We exist to ensure that the Boston Police Department's internal affairs review process is thorough. That's primarily what the other board does, the internal affairs panel, which we met on Tuesday, as I mentioned. And then we also review policies of the Boston Police Department and procedures and make recommendations and everything, okay? The structure, again, this is like one line of the structure is a lot more complicated than it looks, but really there's 4 agencies within this sort of space, right? That does the job together, right? So the OPAC Commission is the chairs of each board, along with myself. We create the OPAC Commission. There's duties and powers for that entity, if you will. There's also OPAT administration, which is the staff, as we would say. I lead that, right, as the ED, I'm the head of the department. And then there's you guys, you all, as the CRB, Civil Review Board, and as I mentioned, the IR Board, right? Okay, so now we're gonna just go right into, the CRB, right? What is it that CRB does? Which is, again, you all, the board, present here. So this is, again, really right out of the ordinance, and it's not intended to be exclusive or thorough right now. It's just to kind of give you a glimpse in terms of the high points, in terms of where you should be doing. So the core role, again, is to investigate complaints from about BPD misconduct, recommend disciplinary measures where appropriate, review existing and proposed BPD policies and procedures, and make recommendations for revisions. We are required, which we're doing today, as I was saying today, we quarterly to assess cases and review policies. We need to meet at least, particularly the board needs to meet at least 4 times a year, and more, if necessary, which I think this year we'll probably do more. And we also are required to do reporting to the mayor, to the city council, and the police commissioner. For instance, all the reports on the cases that you make a final decision on and how the vote will happen, that all gets sent particularly to the commissioner for execution, as well as the mayor and the city council. And it's also uploaded online, right? So this is where the transparency of things happen, right? Everything that we do, including having these meetings, are for public consumption, right? And so here we go to the next section about, some of the meeting procedures that we have to do. How does the meeting happen, right? And as I said, obviously we're a public agency and we have to adhere to the open meeting laws, which is, again, in your binder. Really, that just means that we have, as we are doing now, at a core, that our functions have to be in a public view. Right, meetings like this, particularly when you're voting on cases, the public does not get to vote or comment on anything, but it's for their consumption, right? We have minutes that we produce, right? We have the reports that we produce. So that's the core of it. And then, again, the chair, obviously the chair is designated by the mayor and presides over the meetings, ensures order. The meeting typically, again, will have, a structured meeting and reviewing cases, discussing cases and making findings. That's typically 99% of what you're doing when you come here. And as I mentioned earlier, the public can attend, but unfortunately they can't participate. But I will mention here that the public does have opportunity to participate in the OPAT commission meeting, which is, again, the three chairs or the two chairs along with myself. And in that space is more of a public meeting where the public can comment. And we also are required to have public meetings quarterly or at least 4 times a year. And so we'll be having those. And you are welcome to attend those, obviously, as well as members of the public and certainly members of the board, right? Because you're interested in the work. The way that, this is the forum, which, most of you know what that means, but it just means, what do you need in order to have a meeting, right? So here, how many do we have today? Six, right? So we made one, right? Out of 9, there's not 9 total members. There's a couple members that couldn't be here, including new member Bernard Fitzgerald. Peter Alvarez, who's a past chair actually of the board, couldn't be here today, and a woman named called Natalie Carruthers couldn't be here today. But we have a quorum. If one of you couldn't attend today, right now we couldn't have the meeting, right? So that's what that means. Okay.
I'll just say that has happened.
There you go.
And it's very frustrating to show up and not meet quorum. So
there you go.
If you can make a meeting, please let everyone.
Right.
Sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate, obviously Josh was been on the board, from the beginning. So that has happened with people, committing and not showing up, then just delays everything. We got to change. Everybody's calendar's got to be switched and such, right? So try to be here, particularly, which is one of the reasons why I keep clicking this thing for some reason. I'm just, my fingers are busy. So I put it down. Where was I? I was here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm not used to it. So, so where am I? I'm over here. Okay. So I'm at the forum. I just told you need 6 people minimum. And the interesting thing too, is that all decisions have to be made by the 2/3 of the full board. So the 6 of you today are 2/3 of the 9, right? So sometimes a meeting, the quorums, you could have, a majority of the people present. This is a majority of the total numbers, right? So in order to make a decision, right, to vote on a case as we are going to later, you have to, in this situation, you have to sort of be unanimous, right? Because you don't have, there's no room for, unfortunately, for dissent in this space right now, unfortunately, right? You understand what I'm saying? Because there's only 6 of you, and in order to make a finding, you need the 6 of you, the 2/3 of the board. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It looks like something happened. Shane, you jumped right in? You did? Okay. I was there. Okay, so, and all of this is in your, binder. We'll talk a little bit about it, but it's about, the meetings follow Robert's rules, so we can provide a way of getting things done. That's particularly around making motions for votes, counting votes, having in the safe space for anyone to participate, right, to debate on a case. So those are all, again, in your binder, but we can discuss and ask questions about that. As I mentioned earlier, open meeting laws apply. And obviously, as public employee now, as you have to all be on board with today's law or that. That means you have to adhere also to ethics laws of Massachusetts, which in this space sometimes can rise in situations where you may know the complainant, you may know the police officer, if you know people, particularly their friends, just come to us, right? If your case comes up, even in the moment, oh, this so-and-so from the neighborhood, let us know, right? Because then, the decision can be a question if we're not fleshing out, potential conflict, if you will, right? So that's something to be aware of. But and I think you did a training for that, for ethics already. So, but that's an important piece. These are the, what we call, what's within your purview, the jurisdiction of the board. So complaints that are appropriate for review include obviously extreme situations where there's in custody deaths and serious bodily injury to, to obviously you get a lot of use of force. You get what's the abuse of authority you get a lot of. You get disrespectful treatment when people are dealing with police officers, don't feel like they were being respected and things, neglect of duty, I think is here somewhere too. So these are perjury is a big one. Everybody knows what that is, right? So these are spaces that technically you can review and people can complain about, and we, the majority of cases will fall into these spaces. I think we see a lot of respectful treatment, abuse of authority, excessive use of force. I think those are the ones, more or less you see, you'll see, okay? All of that again is in the ordinance of facts is the section, 16-10, which is what this is. And I didn't explain this, but this in parentheses over here is the ordinance, right? It's a section 12-16, point 10 of the city of Boston code, okay, ordinance. Now we're gonna go into a little bit of how the cases come in and what happens with the cases, right? So as you see at the very top, people file complaints to many different ways. They can go online and file a complaint. We have an intake form online. They can come in person, which they often do. They can call, right? So they can do anonymously too, right? So they file a complaint. Our intake team will review the complaints and determine whether to move the case forward, right? We look at the jurisdiction. Is this something is there a violation of the rule in the city of BPD? We look at, again, does he fall into those categories I just went through, right? And then sometimes things could be out of scope, right? There could be, if something happens in Brockton, for instance, right? That's out of scope for us, right? Perhaps, right? If it involves the state police, perhaps it's out of scope, right? Because we provide oversight of the Boston Police Department, correct? Right, so sometimes we'll have insufficient information to investigate. Sometimes people will just file complaints that have no misconduct alleged either, right? It could be something that doesn't fall within the categories that we have. And, that's perhaps where some of the policy work can happen as well, if you're seeing stuff like that. So when the case goes through, if you will, after the intake, it's assigned to an investigator who again, get to interact with them in a bit. They investigate the cases, which includes typically, talking to the complaining witness. We call it complaining witness, the person that complained, essentially, right? They will attempt to contact the officer, talk to the officer. They'll try to get any videos that exist. They'll talk to witnesses. They'll go to the scenes of the incidents and those kinds of things. So they do a thorough investigation, and then they'll write a report and sort of what you'll see later. This is how it'll work later. They'll write a report that goes through our office, including, thankfully now we have Deputy Director Esther Lene, they'll be overseeing that team, and I'm reviewing those as well, okay? And then you come in, the next line, they submit the report in front of you here in the public meeting to deliberate, to ask questions about the cases, to ultimately vote for final determinations on the cases, okay? And the next thing that happens is that, as I mentioned earlier, the reports are sent to the Boston Police Commissioner to request. So this is something that I'll slow down to kind of explain because it's not, people sometimes get confused about this. Is you make recommendations, okay? This is what we think happened. We recommend that, say, this person is suspended for a few days. The commissioner is more or less the executioner. So we send those reports and say what you found and what you want to happen. He then has the report, and again, the report is all sent to the mayor and the city council, and it's uploaded online, as I mentioned, right? And then he has time to reflect and decide on the final decision. But he still has to reply to us, write letter back to say, this is what I think, this is what happened. I'm either going to follow your direction or I'm not, right? All of this, again, the space of transparency is critical because all of this gets uploaded. It's in public, it's a public debate in terms of some of these issues. I think I mentioned already, but the report, obviously, the complainant and the witnesses, officers involved, all of them are also informed in terms of your decision. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And obviously, as I mentioned, goes online. The case findings, these are the potential findings that you have, okay? So, is something sustained? Is something not sustained? Is exonerated? Is it unfounded? Is it, these are all again in the ordinance section. Literally, you can see the section over there, so you could kind of later on take a look, but let's kind of walk through this slowly a little bit So if you have any questions, this is, we don't have to answer all the questions now, so you will have this information too, that as you're deliberating, oh, you know, what is sustained again, what is not sustained again, so we can go back to this space so you know how to vote. Does that make sense? But not sustained, it just means that the investigation disclosed sufficient evidence to support an allegation. Makes sense? You think there's enough here? And so it's sustained, not sustained, it's failed to prove or disprove, right? You don't, you know, you got the evidence, we did the investigation, but we can't prove or disprove one way or another. The next one, which is a little more, right? Is exonerated that the action complained of did occur, but the investigation revealed that it was proper and legal. Something happened, but you know, it was justified essentially. And then this one, unfounded, obviously, this is a little even more extreme in the sense that essentially you're saying that the alleged event did not occur. Okay, unfounded. So, but here, and I'll mention some of the lawyer will understand this, but you all probably will as well, is the way that you look at the case, and I'll go back to that information, but is that, you know, you're looking at the case when you're getting the evidence, you know, you determine, you know, do you have enough? Now, how do you determine if you have enough? You know, for what we call civil, you know, matters, like when somebody sues the court, sues somebody for tripping and fall at their home. That's what we are. We're in a civil space. Like the criminal, I was a prosecutor years ago, that was a criminal matter, criminal cases. In those cases, I'm sure you see on TV, if you haven't seen it in court, those are by what?
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, which is like extreme, right? You need a lot to prove a criminal, right? Because you're taking liberty of people, liberty, right? So, but this, so say beyond a reasonable doubt is what, 95?
Something like that.
Something like that, right? But here you're closer to 50%, 51%. More likely than not that this happened. If you don't have to have that sort of extreme, you know, we don't have to have that extreme proof, you know, burden. Okay, so it's more likely that this happened, okay? That the alleged conduct happened. Here, though, I just wanted to point out, because I noticed this here. You know, sometimes you can kind of go by this a little bit. The unfounded definition, this is how I got back here, is that the unfounded definition, if you're gonna find that somebody is, you know, that the thing did not occur, then you need a slightly different, you see Barry here? Slightly different burden of proof, which is clear and convincing evidence, which is essentially the middle ground. Say it's like 75%. So if you're gonna say that this did not occur, the language says clear and convincing. So that's, you know, it doesn't come up much, but I noticed it as an attorney. I needed to you know, talk to you about it. But it just means, you know, if this one, the one we use is civil is 51, the highest one, criminal matters, are 90 plus. This is more like 75, right? So if we come across the situations, we'll pause and discuss it more, okay? And I think, so any questions on that? You'll get an opportunity to ask more questions, right? I know it's a lot of information that we're giving you. Today, we're gonna walk slowly through some of the stuff, but we have a few cases again for you to go over. But, you know, take your time, okay?
Good question.
Sure.
Are the cases all written reports? Is there ever a case you're looking at video or the
Yes.
person is actually here?
Yes, the person can come here, and we do have videos on most cases. A lot of the cases, you will have the opportunity to see the video. You'll have the opportunity to review the various, you know, there'll be not on one tape sometimes, there will be photos, there will be a number of evidence that is collected. You will have access to review those things. And often, in fact, on Tuesday, literally the video was loaded here, and they were watching for a few minutes what's taking place. And it's helpful because then you can kind of make your own decision into what you're seeing, right? And obviously, you know that since 2020, I think at least we've had implementation of the body cameras, particularly with the officers, the uniform officers, particularly in the city of Boston. So you will get a lot of those. They're not always available, but they are available. And so let me go to the next portion again. As I mentioned earlier, you know, it's open to the public. You need a quorum to make decisions. Here, I will just pause here to kind of explain a little bit. Again, this is in your binder, but the thing to think about is that as a board of 9 people, so the quorum of 6 is what we agreed upon, right? So the 6 of you couldn't take time to go grab lunch or coffee somewhere and, you know, and just sit down and debate a case. So the decision making this decision making, anytime there's a quorum of the members deliberating on a case, say, right? With respect to any matter within the jurisdiction, that has to abide by the open meeting laws, which means has to happen in public. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So you couldn't just go to lunch and say, oh, let's talk about that case, right? Because the public is not, it's not in fact, not only does it have to be, happen to be in the public, we have to notify the public ahead of time, which we did, right? Through the city of Boston's clerk's office, so people can have the chance to come here and hear what you're saying, right? So that's what this is very important, particularly when you have quorum.
Can we email about cases?
You cannot email about cases, okay? That's another thing that there's some confusion about. We can, and we'll look into the process through that. The Attorney General of Massachusetts, now, Andrea Campbell, they are in charge of enforcing open meeting laws. In fact, people can complain. People can officially, like, they can complain, they can go and complain and say, oh, I saw Josh and the rest at the bar, talking about the case, right? So they can make complaints. And so you can deliberate, anything that's sort of debating the case, you can. So what happens is, through email, it's still deliberated, right? It's in a private setting, nobody knows what you're emailing about, right? And the other thing to think about as well, which we should have noted, is that we deal with, everything we do, as I've been clear about, is open to the public, and we get a lot of requests for, public records. So they can sort of just go say, okay, send me the record of the emails, that the CRB has had the last few days, and they see you all debating the case. That's a violation, right? But what we can do, is certainly, talk about the, calendar, like picking dates and things like that. We can do procedural stuff. There's some leeway there, but we cannot deliberate. But so, so the minute I send a case and you reply, oh, this is the case, that's right. That's a no-no, right? You reply to all and say, oh, I remember that case, right? That's what happened over there. That was in the news, right? That's sort of, that can be carries some trouble. So that's why we sort of come here and we do it. But there is room for some spaces to send documents and things like that. And we're looking at the process out in those spaces, okay? Which I know that's where you're going to with the question, okay? But these are all important stuff because, again, as public officials now, right, you have to go through HR and you get paid literally. Those things can come and bite us, obviously. So we avoid those. But just a couple stats, and then I think I have, yeah. So one more, just this last slide, and then we'll get to some of the more good stuff. Okay. This is just thanks to Michael who pulled this up. Michael's a policy and data analyst. This is the data in terms of where we are with the CRB particularly, okay? So the total amount of cases that we've had since 2022. So this agency, as I mentioned, was created in 2020. By the time they hired the ED and obviously get all the, you see how long it takes to get the board going. It was January of 2022, which was, a little over 3 years ago. And since then, we've had 368 complaints received. And the CRB specifically, this board has heard 53 cases officially on the board. And these are some of the findings. We've had 12 sustained cases. With, as you know, within the same case, there could be multiple allegations and multiple officers involved. So this is how the sustained allegations are much more. And then we've had, 30 non-sustained cases. You can see some of the other findings, okay? I just wanted to kind of give you some overalls so you know where we are. Last year, 2024, I started in May of 2024, so I'm 10 months in. And we've had record high complaints. Actually, we had 143 complaints, 20 more than the previous year. And 29 cases were heard by the CRB, and we had 9 sustained cases since last year, with 24 sustained allegations of misconduct. Again, you can see the 17 non-sustained and so on, right? So these, again, not only the reports go online, we have to keep dashboards online in terms of, like, you can literally go online and find this information. And that's Michael's space, okay? I think, let me make sure again, I think that was it, 30 minutes. 31 minutes, so I did okay, it wasn't too long. I tried not to do, but I want to there's a lot more that we should be discussing that we'll get an opportunity to discuss later. I wanted to just give you the basics, right, to get you going, because again, we're gonna be discussing some cases, you all are new. But there'll be opportunities for further training, further discussion, diving into burden of proofs and definitions, and some of that stuff is also up for grabs in terms of changing them. As well, so there's a lot of work that we're gonna be doing, so I'm very excited again as I close that we have this board. We're able to push this meeting and get it done. I know it was last, people are like, man, do we have to come next week? Yes, you did. So I appreciate you being flexible with your time. And I'll stop here unless, again, I'm happy to answer some preliminary questions, but we do have a long day with some cases, I'd rather get to some of the nitty gritty, but I also don't want to rush you, particularly being new if there's some questions, burning questions.
So what in the case that a complainant knows one of us being part of the CRB and contacted us?
So you could, if somebody comes to you and said, I have a complaint against the Boston Police Department, send them to us. Right, so then we do the intake, we can schedule a meeting with the intake, depending on the situation, you can go, obviously you can go online and report, so you are now an agent of the agency, so people will know that so if they have something with the police department, you can certainly contact me, Cheyenne, and the rest of the team is available, right? So, but at minimum, you can say is the website, don't take the intake, don't take the complaints, we'll get it to you, we get it in front of you, later, right? But that's a great question.
Someone can show up here if they want.
Yes,
To the office.
Yeah.
They can show up.
what the complaints?
Yeah. To make a complaint.
Yes,
Yeah.
people walk in, we have to walk in all the time, Mike, we just had somebody walk in, we get walk-ins all the time, and I'll talk more about some of the community engagement stuff that we're doing to get out there, so we got the pamphlet that you are seeing, so we're taking the show on the road, so we're getting people coming in to complain, but that's always happened, and again, people can do it, they don't have to tell us their information too, right, which is important and honest.
I'm wondering for when we're reviewing everything that comes with a case, do we review and then make decisions right there and then, or do we have time to kind of marinate on decisions before making them?
So the decisions, a case could come back,
Mhm.
but ideally, you come in, we discuss, you take the time, answer the questions, you vote on it.
Okay.
But the voting happens, like we'll go through 3, 4, 5 cases, depending on the situation.
Mhm.
The discussion happens in executive session, again, as I
Yeah.
explained earlier. And, which means, again, out of the public's view. Then you come out of the space towards the end, when you reviewed all the cases with your notes and
Yeah.
you kind of know how you feel about different cases, then we vote in public.
Gotcha.
Okay, but that we try at least not, we've had cases that come back with different things, to do more, if you will. But it's not like, you can take it on an advisement to next week
Right,
and think
right.
about it,
Can you go back to the different, that one?
Yeah.
The last one, their information inquiries.
Thank you.
If the board, we've had a couple cases in the past. Well, I mean, we try if there's enough information
Right.
and we think we can vote, then we'll vote. But if there's a question, then maybe we want more information either from the OPAT staff and the investigators to get more. Then the board has used that, and then you'll see it again at the next meeting.
Right.
Okay.
So the case can come back. There's this, then that's a safe space to do it. But, certainly, particularly because all the discussion is happening, we don't have enough, okay?
Mhm.
So we put it's information inquiry. It's not a final decision,
Gotcha.
right? So it doesn't get reported out and put it on the website. It's like this is a case, it's like in court, when you go, case gets continued, essentially.
Mhm.
And you're coming back with the case, so it's no final decision now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if, we did have an information inquiry,
Mhm.
but for example, the complaintee was here. Would we, in that moment, get information from him, or does it have to go through it?
No, so if the complainant is here,
Uh.
you can, we can ask some questions, like, if they say, where's the video that you took? Say the complainant said you had a video. Oh, we didn't know there was a video, maybe the investigators didn't know there was a video, maybe they found it from a neighbor later, right? We didn't get that information. We could say, can we get that video later?
Alright.
Right, but when the person is here talking about their experience, right, you want to get as much information as possible in terms of what that happened. So information inquiry is more about evidence that you need that now you're aware of that perhaps we didn't grab or we weren't aware of before.
I can add one other thing.
Please.
If complainants are informed when their case is coming.
Correct.
Invited to come, officers are also informed, and so they're sometimes and invited to come. So sometimes there's an officer here, and in that case, I think they have a right for their own case to sit and hear the deliberation. They don't have to, and then we can pose questions to them.
Good question, good question. So I think, why don't we move on to the more or less the official part of the meeting. Again, thank you for your time. Looking forward to the amazing work we're all going to do.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, I'll just get into it. Good afternoon, everyone. It's actually still morning, so it's 11:37. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the Civilian Review Board's public meeting. My name is Sam Harold, and I am the chair of the board. We just talked about the meeting is open for the public to attend and is being recorded through Zoom. Zoom has been set up for a video recording purposes only, and it's not an option for public participation at this time. So if anyone needs a transcript of this meeting afterwards, whether it's us or members of the public, they can reach out to OPAT staff at opatboards@boston.gov. Also, public comment will not be held during this meeting. You are welcome to submit any comments that you have to that email address, opatboards@boston.gov, and they will be acknowledged at the next OPAT Commission community meeting. So we're gonna do roll call. And I wrote down everybody's names. But I might mess it up. So, I'm gonna say somebody's name and I guess you can say present. Does that sound good? Okay. We have Tanisha De Leon,
Yeah, present.
present. Oh man, I'm sorry. Can you tell me how to pronounce your name?
Your fault,
Beautiful,
Ferguson.
Lorgason.
Present.
Present. Thank you, Pastor Kiki. Mr. Reggie Smalls,
Present?
and Amari Perez.
Yeah, present.
And Josh Dankoff. And Sam Harold is present. Okay. And I think we all filled out an attendance form. So this morning, we're gonna run through the agenda that I think we all have copies of. And let's say we can see it on the screen, but I don't think there is a screen that has the agenda. And each member has a copy of the agenda in their binder. And our first order of business today is to approve the meeting minutes from the Civilian Review Board's May 21st meeting. So copies of the minutes are included in the board member binders, and additional print copies can be found at the front desk.
Slight correction, Mr. Chair, if I might interrupt.
Sure.
The last meeting was actually November 20th.
Right.
Yeah, so that's my fault. I probably gave you the wrong one. So I apologize.
No, you're fine. That actually sounds far away.
Yes.
So November 20th?
Correct, right? That's what yes.
Okay, so we had, the previous meeting was November 20th. There are meeting minutes in the binders for everybody to review. And additional print copies are available. So are there any corrections to the minutes as presented? I wasn't present for that meeting.
I was present. I don't have any corrections,
Okay,
and I moved to adopt things.
and do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. So by motion, the minutes have been adopted.
So who moved? You just have to record.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have Josh Dankoff who moved. I know that both Amari Perez and Reggie Smalls also seconded.
Yeah, we just need one person, whoever did it first.
I'll take credit.
Oh, and then I guess we'll vote on whether to pass those minutes.
Yes.
So
So approve.
so seeing unanimous vote in favor of the motion, the minutes will be approved.
Right.
So now we're going to move to the executive director's report. The chair acknowledges Executive Director Evandro Carvalho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll try to be super brief this time. Again, these reports are doing, when we meet them. When we meet, I'm not usually doing this presentation, so you wouldn't have to see me so much. But I wanted to sort of just give you a brief update in terms of where we are, some of the things that we're doing in the office, including particularly around staffing. As I mentioned earlier, I've got the privilege of being the new ED for 10 months now. And unfortunately, at the time that I arrived, not only did there was no ED, there was sort of a gap in the leadership of the team, including the deputy had left, the chief of staff at the time had left, and members of the staff, many of which are still here, kind of kept things afloat. But part of the focus that has been on my end is to, one, build the capacity of the team, rehire people, including even some of the new people that I'll talk about. And also there was gaps on the boards as well. With people that were inactive for some time, people that end up leaving thereafter as well. So that's been the focus of my work over the last 10 months. And also obviously connecting with the mayor's team, connecting with Boston Police Department, particularly the commissioner. I have monthly meetings with the commissioner of Commissioner Cox. And I also been, the other space that I've been sort of focusing on, and I'll speak more about it later, is trying to make sure that we get out to the community, do more community engagement events. In fact, we hired a new person to be focusing on community engagement because that was one of the things that I saw that many spoke about, the gaps that people know. One, we were new, right? Two, people did not know what we do and where we are. So it's something as simple as the sign that you see above. I'm sure you saw about a tree in our front. That's a new sign that we had, 2 weeks old. Yeah, the pamphlets that you see, those are new. But I'll introduce the team briefly. I still have, what did I do with the remote? I had this, thank you. I had the team on the screen. You've seen the names and the faces already, but let me jump to that space. There it is. Don't worry about this guy. I don't know him. The chief of staff is our Kundak Nazar. She's actually a new employee. She started in October 10th. As I mentioned, there were no chief of staff before I started. She comes with a lot of experience, particularly within the city hall space. She's a city employee, and in fact worked in engagement cabinet before. And Cheyenne, you met Cheyenne trying to keep us moving. She's the executive assistant. I mentioned the intake people earlier. You see Andy on the top right corner, as well as Taisha, Marius, Andy, Sherry. Those are our 2 intake people. This is Taisha here. She's out today, and so is Andy. Actually, it's Andy's birthday, and we celebrated yesterday. And so these are the 2 investigators that you'll be interacting with. You see Tashri sitting over there. He's one of the people that were, he's one of the few people that started with the agency and is still here. And Diana Vergara should be coming in soon. She's the other investigator. And I think I mentioned Sam. Diana worked as a CPCS attorney, not attorney, she's an investigator a year ago. You might have not overlapped with her, but she's also, I think she's been around for a couple of years. The new people is as I mentioned earlier, community engagement specialist Abdullah Beckett. He's in the back there. He's an alumni. A lot of us went to UMass, different UMasses, but he's an alumni of UMass Boston. Been working in Brian Worrell's City Council Worrell's office for some time. Does constituent services and community engagement. He's got us up and running, but a lot of work in the community engagement that I'll mention in the next slide. And he started last month, February. Yes, and you see, I'm sure you see Michael over there too with the suit and the tie. Nice tie. He started he's the policy and data analyst. And again, as I mentioned, a lot of the information that we do, data reports, that all of that has to be online. We have a dashboard that we have to track about our complaints. We'll do some policy work. That's going primarily through Michael. Michael started in November. Okay. And the latest edition, have I covered everybody? I have. This guy looks familiar. It's not me. The latest addition, that I'm super excited to have is Esther Lene, who's our new deputy director. She's also an attorney. I'm an attorney, in case I didn't say that earlier. I graduated from Howard Law in 2008. Esther graduated from Suffolk Law 2003. I met Esther years ago when we were both prosecutors in Suffolk County DA's office. We prosecuted cases up the street in Roxbury District Court. She went on to go, I left early. She stayed and went to, she's a felony, she prosecuted felonies downtown Superior Court. She then left and started her own firm, did defense work, and for the past several years has been at the state level, dealing with boards. As the feel free to chip in terms of the work that you're doing on the state level, working with boards, which is again why she's here. She understands police, she understands investigation, she understands boards. So I'm grateful to have her. She really just started on Monday. So, you know, she jumped right in.
Yeah.
Excited to have her on the team. That's why you don't see a picture there. We'll make sure to get a picture on there. But again, I just wanted to, particularly because that's one of the wins of this week. We were like, we got that's the target. So I'm excited to mention that. And so here's the last slide, and again, I've taken more time than I should have, but I wanted to, you know, it's the first time I want you to meet the team. And these are the folks that are doing the work that you see happening. The couple things that we've been doing since particularly the last several months is, you know, in fact, I have one tomorrow. I'm doing bi-weekly. Every other Friday, I'm doing coffee hours throughout the city to coffee shops. This week, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we'll be at the Grove Dunkin' Donuts. You know, we're spending an hour there. We have the pamphlet, we have signing sheets. We just informing the public about what we're doing here, okay? And again, thanks to Abdullah and the work that he's doing. He's driving that work. He coordinates all the community engagement stuff. He also, we're gonna be doing next Wednesday. This is something that we started new. Again, the space that Abdullah is focusing on and coordinating. We're doing monthly, first Wednesday of the month. We're doing open doors where people come into our, so we go there, we bring them here. In fact, this Wednesday, we're gonna be focusing, talking a little bit about intakes. Some of the intake coordinators will talk about the process, intake complaints and things like that. So this is something, again, this is ongoing that we're gonna be doing. This is what I wanted to focus on, is have a robust community engagement process that we continue to engage the public in. Okay, we're also gonna be going to various community meetings, which we do. I think we did over 30 last year in terms of community meetings that we had. Obviously, these are public meetings that we're doing. So my plan is to really get out there and let the people know that we're doing. And in that space, also, we did execute a digital billboard program in February, was it, into March of 6 weeks? You know, in the highways, particularly the ones, you know, by Dorchester, you can see our office, right? We had some string stations that I'm sure you see with the boards, with the camera, not the camera, the TVs like this, with information, we started getting in those space. So there's other, in fact, we got a Instagram, which I think we already did, but we're sort of amplifying those spaces that we already had. And I think you should have said it over there, we have a Twitter handle. We're gonna try to get on Facebook. We're gonna try, I know Facebook's old, but I'm a Facebooker. So we're gonna do Facebook. We're gonna just try to be out there, right? We're gonna go to the churches. We're gonna go to the, you know, to the radio stations, the local radio stations, to talk about the work. And you all certainly can attend a lot of those too. Okay, so, but I close here again, my focus has been in amplifying and building and rebuilding the team, right? And then secondly, trying to just start getting to the community, putting the pieces together, pamphlets, again, basic stuff to kind of get us out there and increasing complaints and do the work that we had to do. Okay, so that's all I had. I think I should be, this is the next slide, but I'll pass it back to you, sir, unless there's any questions as well.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Director Carvalho. Does the board have any questions? And we don't have any questions. So I think at this time, we're going to be scheduling future civilian review board meetings. I'm not sure if there are proposed dates or.
We decided against proposed dates because when we tried it on Tuesday, they just told us no
Yeah.
to all four. So, I was gonna say that we are hoping to have one each quarter. Our quarters are April, May, June. And then we have July, August, September. October, November, December, and then January, February, March.
Okay,
So-
April to June.
April to June, July to September. No, sorry, July to October,
It's
April, May,
July,
June, sorry,
August, September,
thank you, yes, September, October to December,
correct.
and then January to March.
And do we want to have more than one? Are we?
Yeah, it'd be help two things. I think, one, we should have more than one, but at least we'll have a backup date too, in case something comes
Right.
up, right? So we would like to have,
So we're looking to, yeah, we're looking to schedule 5 dates and have 2 rainy dates,
Okay,
not per quarter, but just for the year. Does that make sense?
that makes sense.
Okay.
So, looking at the first quarter, April through June, what day of the week works best for everybody? Is this Thursdays work?
Thursdays,
Thursdays or
ideal, I
Tuesdays?
think, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try to keep it on Thursdays then.
Thursday's good.
Do we want to meet, what about May 8th, 15th? May 8th or May 15th? Either of those dates, they're all Thursdays.
The 15th is better for me.
15th is better for you?
15th is good.
15th is good?
What month is that?
May.
May.
Okay. What month are we in now?
We're in
March.
March.
April, May.
That's a month and a
So
half,
it's being like
a month and a half.
a little over a month, yeah. Do we want to have something sooner?
No.
No, that's good.
Okay,
The other thing that we should consider is the meetings that we picked for the.
We picked June 17th for IOPS. first
Okay,
meeting.
good. So because as a team, we have to do essentially 3 meetings every quarter. So I think ideally, we'll have like 1 meeting a month type of thing, so we're not having them like back to back. So that's the other thing to consider, but.
But you guys were the first board to sit down and schedule, so you guys have free for all.
all right.
So you could, I think,
So
like,
May
so
15th.
we're in March now, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So March is the last month,
Yeah,
Of
it is
the
of the
Yes.
quarter,
of the first one.
right? So then maybe go to May, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay,
because I think what we'd like to do, I think what makes sense is to have, Mr. Shepherd, we should notice, so we have IOP one month, we have CRB 1 month, and in the following month, we have the OPAC commission,
got it.
right?
yeah, it works.
So that's all we're
We're
thinking
having
about,
commission in April, we're having CRB in May, and then we're gonna have IOP in June.
right? And the commission meetings are not required to have in the quarter, so we sort of, and we have to have these meetings first, because a lot of the work that we do is amplify
Yeah,
the other boards.
that makes sense.
Right, so we have the IOP and we have you guys now. So I think May makes sense.
May works
Okay.
perfectly.
All right, so May then,
So-
So now we
Thursday.
have July, August, September.
Okay,
May 15th.
so we have May 15th for this one. Does that works for everybody?
Yep.
Do we want to have a rain date the following week? Or
No, that is the week after.
Memorial Week's the week after, so that would be the 29th.
The 22nd works with me.
Yeah, 22nd, I can make that work.
Okay,
Yeah.
but if, so that'll be the backup date,
Okay,
Same time, 10 to 2?
10 to
Yeah.
2, yeah.
yes,
Usually the meeting is about, it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
10
Yeah.
o'clock.
and we do say 10 to 2, they do go above,
Yeah,
so
and,
it's not, like, there's not really an ending.
just like today,
Right,
on the fourth, Thursday, I have a meeting with I'm part of a cab at the BMC. We have that meeting, on the fourth, Thursday, it's from, 9:30 until 11.
so not the
That's why I get
22nd.
here at 10:30, the 22nd might not work. Okay, if it works, I have just to be sure, I have to show up late.
Okay,
We can push the
11.
meeting to 11, we did start at 11 today.
Yeah,
so why don't we do that? If we have to do the rain date on the 22nd,
okay,
we'll
perfect,
start at 11.
perfect.
1 to 3?
11 to 3,
Okay.
just for scheduling purposes, sure. But I think we'll be good about trying. We're all saying we can do it now. Hopefully we'll have a quorum. So the next, next period is from July through September. I know it's probably
Hardest time.
the hardest time, yeah. So,
Or August, right?
or August.
Yeah.
Do we want like August?
September would be great for me, the
agree.
first summer
I
jobs.
Yes.
agree, yeah,
I would say September.
September would be best.
When it comes to August, whoa.
I don't have anything scheduled for either of those days, either of those months right now.
September would be,
I start college September.
Do you
Yeah.
know when in September?
Yes.
Um,
So I would have to be, I would have to see.
so maybe you're not sure about,
When in September? No.
Huh?
When do you start in September?
Beginning of September. So end
So
of
probably
end of
after Labor
August,
Day.
beginning of September.
I thought you started with the 15th
Oh, on,
of September.
college?
Mhm.
I think August, right, end of August?
End of August?
Yeah.
Orientation.
I think so.
Okay.
I mean,
'Cause I know
How
they
does
start
August
their- I know they
21st
start their
then
winter
sound?
session Late, that's right.
you and me?
that's like when
Yeah.
people going away.
I am going to Rome from July 27th to August 6th. So
Okay.
Okay. Josh, like,
I mean, that is a time when a lot of people travel.
Yeah.
okay,
I think probably my suggestion would be to go to September.
okay.
And hopefully it works. I mean, you know your class schedule yet, so.
Yeah.
So maybe, how about September 11th? So that we're not on that Labor Day week, because I think also people are gonna take time off that week.
That works.
yeah, that's what.
And then with a rain date of September 18th. That'll be 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Amari, just let us know what your schedule ends up
Yeah,
looking like.
whenever you
Yeah.
figure out, just email me so we can schedule around it.
perfect, yeah.
Mhm.
So the 11th with the 18th as a
Backup.
Monday.
All right, that works for everybody? Okay. Now looking at October through December. Does anybody have any preferences? It's so far out at this point for me that it's like, it almost doesn't feel real.
2-week wedding in November.
Good to know. Which
beautiful.
weeks?
Like Thanksgiving, that kind of the week before Thanksgiving and then Thanksgiving.
So, long ceremony.
Here,
Why don't we try to shoot for,
December
not
4th.
my wedding, no.
yeah,
Yeah.
December 4th.
Almost one.
Yeah, no, it's in South Africa, so I think.
I think it's
maybe-
African.
Yeah, it's an African wedding, yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
But so it's definitely, I think October would be great.
You think October would be great?
Yeah, before the holidays.
Is that okay to do September?
But we just met in September.
Just made it September.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Does
You're
December
right.
4th
What
work?
about the week before, the first week of November?
First week, that would work for me. Yeah.
Does December 4th work though? Cause I feel like that's the date everyone keeps saying and then.
Either one.
December 4th.
How do people feel about,
November.
December 4th versus November 6th?
I can do either one.
Yeah,
I-
you like November better. Okay, so why don't we shoot for November 6th?
Mhm.
And then. You're gonna be here for the 13th, the following week?
Yes.
So if we need to reschedule it, we can. Put it on. I like having like that backup, just like in case.
November 6th.
Yeah.
Then the 13th will be the rain date.
This is at 11 a.m. again.
I think we're gonna try to do 10
We can
a.m.
do
to 2
10,
p.m.
cause only the 4th one. right?
Okay.
Yeah. There's no snow.
Do we wanna come up with a January to March date or are we,
Might as well, you're
It
going to roll.
does
okay,
close out the year for us, so.
all right, let's close out the
By
year for you
having
guys.
January?
Mhm.
By having a date?
Yeah.
Okay.
February 12th.
Yeah, Lincoln's birthday.
It is.
It's just on my calendar.
I like that.
And then the 19th,
Yeah. that works.
Yeah. Yes, no.
These are all Thursdays, you guys?
Yes.
Yep.
The 19th.
12th for the real meeting, and then if we don't have a quorum or something happens, we'll reschedule for the following week. Okay, 2 p.m.
Yeah, we got 3 people going here.
Yeah, and then we can, yeah, we'll figure it out.
That's fine.
Will you send calendar invites for?
Of
all
course,
these?
I'll send calendar invites for everything. And I'm also gonna say that, Josh, I feel like you can attest to this. Sometimes we don't get through all the cases because the meetings do tend to run so long, or people have to leave just because of prior commitments. It might be best if you guys put a 5th date on the calendar, just anywhere. Just so that even if it swamps us as a team, I feel like, just in one of the months you didn't pick, just in case you're like, wow, we didn't get through 3 cases, or and it's just, it ends up being sort of a buildup.
What about finding a date in January as like like after the holiday?
Yeah.
Like on the 8th or the 15th?
Yeah,
That sound good?
Mhm.
yeah.
All right,
So this will be CR for bonus day.
January
Wednesday.
8th, 2026.
wow.
So far.
You said that word out loud? Wow.
Do we want a rain day for that, or do we want to I'll just keep that date, okay. Thank you for bearing with me, this is the first time, I feel like I'm like a little nervous.
You're doing
So
amazing.
out there,
Yeah, agree.
not court. Okay, so, it looks like we have scheduled ourselves, for the next year. And then, our next agenda is complaint, summary, and disposition. The CRB will review the cases listed on the agenda in an executive session. Would anyone like to make a motion to enter executive session?
Motion.
We have Ms. DeLeon, moving to enter executive session,
Seconded.
seconded by Josh Dankoff. It is now 12:04. Do we want to vote aye? For roll call?
Yeah.
All of us again?
Yes,
Okay.
names.
Sorry. Maybe it's on the next page. Okay, is Tanisha DeLeon here?
Here, present.
No, like,
No.
how do you vote?
Oh,
Mr. Tiana Fort Florissant,
Aye.
Mr. Reggie Smalls.
Yes.
Mr. Amari Perez.
Aye.
Mr. Josh Dankoff.
Yes, to move into executive session.
Thank you. Sam Harold, to move into executive session.
oh, you're gonna do 3, okay.
Roll call, Mr.
What are the instructions on that? I'm gonna start doing this.
Oh, okay. So in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, 21A7, and 22, Section 22F and G, this executive session is being called in order to review and approve past executive session minutes and to discuss the complaints brought against the Boston Police Department public officers, employees, staff members, or individual. So this applies to case numbers 318, 367, 209, 337, and 375. The BPD employees named in any of these cases retain the right to have this discussion in the public meeting rather than in the executive session. Are there any officers present who would like their case to be heard in the public meeting? Seeing that there's nobody, we will now hold a roll call to enter into the executive session,
Which we've done.
which we did. And when your name is called, please state your name when we vote instead. So thank you. The Civilian Review Board will reconvene after the conclusion of the executive session in the public meeting to hold a roll call vote on the disposition of each case. OPAT staff will now close the dividers in the conference room and turn on the sound machines.
Oh, yeah.
Do that.
At this point, I can't enjoy it.
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Yes, so just start with the
Okay.
cases one by one, then voting.
Okay.
voting sheets.
I think I have more than enough voting sheets. I think I have like multiple copies of the voting sheets because all of those voting sheets I don't need. Three through seven. 209. 318,
337,
330, I have 367.
and then 337, 367.
Three. Wait, do you have 337?
Yes.
Can you give the sheriff a voting card for 337?
Okay. Oh, that's the most recent one. Okay. So we're gonna,
The most recent one was 375, wasn't it?
Are we going down numerical order? Or in order to do?
you're right, it's 337 and 375. Okay.
And 318?
Starts with 318. We're just gonna take the first page out. Sorry, guys. It's okay. There's 209, yeah.
In that order.
So it's, so 209, 318, 337,
You can take it whenever order you want.
367, and
These are different.
375.
Slightly different. Okay. Okay, so then the CRB will vote on the disposition of the cases presented today to the board. I will read the case number and the recommended disposition for that case. We will then hold a roll call vote for each case number to adopt disposition. Does the board have any questions about this procedure? Okay, let's begin. In the matter of 318. The recommended disposition is not sustained. How does the CRB vote?
Is it one rule, Mr. Chair?
It's two rules. So Rule 102, Section 3, conduct, Rule 102, Section 4, neglect of duty, unreasonable judgment.
Chair, I have in my notes we discussed actually an unfounded finding recommendation.
So
I
that
know the
I thought the
recommendation from OPAT staff was
yeah,
as it was, but it might be more expedient to just
it might be.
say.
I thought
what
I thought the
was-
recommendation they were talking about was the OPAT staff recommendation. But that makes more sense. So the recommendation is unfounded. So we will now need to discuss and vote on a discipline for each case, for this case. This CRB has sustained,
Mr. Chair, I think first, we have to do a roll call to vote
yeah,
on the rule. So if it's now, so the recommendations initially, I think it was not sustained, not sustained. Right, so if you change it to, you can change it, obviously,
Okay.
to unfounded, but so then, but each rule you need to vote on, whatever the outcome is. Like in this situation is unfounded, so how do you vote, then you move on to the next section of disciplinary action.
okay,
Does that make
it
sense?
makes sense.
Okay, so
Okay, so for Rule 102, Section 3, conduct. Ms. Daly, how do you vote?
Unfounded.
Mr. Florissant, how do you vote? Mr. Smalls, how do you vote?
Unfounded.
Mr. Perez, how do you vote?
Unfounded.
Mr. Dankoff, how do you,
Unfounded.
Okay.
Here, how do you vote?
I vote unfounded.
All right, so next rule.
Rule 102, section, 4. Neglect of duty, unreasonable judgment. Ms. De Leon, how do you vote?
For number 318, unfounded.
Mr. Florissant, how do you vote?
Unfounded.
Mr. Smalls, how do you vote?
Unfounded.
Mr. Dankoff, how do you vote?
Unfounded.
And I also vote unfounded.
Skip.
Oh, Mr. Perez, I'm sorry.
Okay, unfounded.
Okay. And I also vote unfounded.
So we've done the two rules.
Then two
Now we
rules.
go proceed to the,
Well, in this case, the next case.
yeah, the next case, because there's no sustain.
Okay.
They wanted to add, rule 405 on the body warrant.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
change on that, and then,
That,
with all recommend,
They did, okay.
for 367.
318, okay.
Was it not
It was
367?
367.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 367.
Yeah, 367. That's okay.
Okay, so next case, thank you.
So do we want to do just 367 now? Okay. So for 367, we're having, we have a recommended disposition of,
It's okay, take your time.
we have a recommended disposition of not sustained on the 3 counts that were included in the original complaint, but we are adding a additional counts of violation of body worn camera policy, in which our recommendation is sustained.
So why don't we walk down from, again, each rule?
Okay, so for rule 102, section 3 conduct, Ms. De Leon,
Not sustained.
Mr. Florissant,
Not sustained.
Mr. Smalls,
Not sustained.
Mr. Perez,
Not sustained.
Mr. Dankoff.
Not sustained.
I will also vote not sustained. For rule 102, section 4, neglect of duty, unreasonable judgment. Ms. De Leon, how do you,
Not sustained.
Mr. Florissant, how do you vote?
Not sustained.
Mr. Smalls, how do you vote?
Not sustained.
Mr. Perez, how do you vote?
Not sustained.
Mr. Dankoff, how do you vote?
Not sustained.
I also vote not sustained. Rule 304, section 2, non-lethal force. Use of non-lethal force. Ms. De Leon, have you,
Not sustained.
you vote? Mr. Florissant, how do you vote?
Not sustained.
Mr. Smalls, how do you vote?
Not sustained.
Mr. Perez, how do you vote?
Not sustained.
Mr. Dankoff, how do you vote?
Not sustained.
Okay, and I also vote not sustained. For the additional violation, rule 405, section 2.2, body violation of the body worn camera policy. Ms. De Leon, how do you vote?
Sustained.
Mr. Florissant, how do you vote?
Sustained.
Mr. Smalls, how do you vote?
Sustained.
Mr. Perez, how do you vote?
Sustained.
Mr. Dankoff, how do you vote?
Sustained.
And I also vote sustained. Did we, for the,
Thank you. Thank you.
move to the,
Now is the disciplinary.
now we're gonna move to the disciplinary action. The recommended disciplinary action is, an oral reprimand and additional training on the body worn camera policy. Ms.
In favor?
De Leon. How do you vote?
Aye.
In favor.
In favor? Aye.
Mr. Florissant votes in favor. Mr. Smalls,
In favor.
Mr. Perez,
In favor.
Mr. Dankoff,
In favor.
and I am also in favor. Too many. Somebody just handed me another one.
No, this is for the, this is for.
This is for 318. This
Okay.
was handed to me.
You said you did.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move to 337. We already do 337?
No.
No, okay. So, the, recommendation for, 337 is not sustained on Rule 102, violation of respectful treatment, Rule 102, Section 19, statement of opinion, Rule 102, Section 20, self-identification.
Is it possible, Chair, that we can just vote one time? For
I
all
was thinking
three
about
of
doing
those?
that, yeah.
Since
Yes,
it's not
it's the
If
same.
they're all, since it's a unanimous decision by the board, Ms. De Leon, how do you vote?
Unanimously not sustained.
Unanimously not sustained.
Okay, Mr. Florisant, thank you. Mr. Smalls,
Unanimously not sustained.
Mr. Perez,
Unanimously not sustained.
and Mr. Dankoff.
Not sustained for all three. President.
You had to go against. the grain.
Yeah.
And I also vote on all three, not sustained.
Now it's unanimous.
Unanimously.
That's true.
It's a precision thing.
It's
It's a
true.
precision thing.
Does we have to go back around and say for all three?
No,
No, that was yeah.
we're clear.
So how many, how many's left?
Two, 209 and 375.
Okay, for 209. Oh, yeah. There are three different officers that are charged separately with violating two rules. Section 102, Section 4, neglect of duty, unreasonable judgment. And so 2 counts of each, neglect of duty, unreasonable judgment. So there's 6 counts in all. The Civilian Review Board is recommending not sustained on all counts. Ms. De Leon, how do you find on all 6 counts?
Not sustained on all 6 counts.
Okay, Mr. Florisant, how do you find?
Not sustained on all 6 counts.
Mr. Smalls, how do you find?
Not sustained in all 6 counts.
Mr. Perez, how do you find?
Not sustained on all 6 counts.
Mr. Dankoff, how do you find?
Not sustained on all 6.
And I also find not sustained on all 6 counts. Okay, which one do we have left?
375.
375.
375. Next time I'm here, there's gonna be a different organization.
Yeah, great.
Just saying that because you want to leave. Oh yeah, this one. Okay, so, so this is, case number 375. There is a recommendation on counts 1 and 3, and a separate recommendation for count 2. Count 1 is 102, section 9, respectful treatment. We are saying sustained. For section 301, 7.62, pursuit driving. We are saying not sustained. For section 30, or for rule 302, section 4.1, operation of emergency vehicles, we are recommending sustained. Ms. De Leon, how do you find?
All 3.
Why don't we, yes,
Okay, why don't we do, section 102, section 9, and 302, section 4.1, so that's counts 1 and 3.
On counts 1 and 3, I vote sustained.
Mr. Florisant,
Count 1 and 3, I voted sustained.
Mr. Smalls,
Counts 1 and 3, I vote sustained.
Mr. Perez,
On rule 102 and 302, I count sustained.
Mr. Dankoff,
I vote sustained on counts 1 and 3.
and I also vote sustained on counts 1 and 3. On counts 2, the pursuit of driving, 301, section 7.6.2. Our recommendation is not sustained. Ms. De Leon, how do you find?
Vote not sustained.
Mr. Flaherty,
Not sustained.
Mr. Smalls,
Not sustained.
Mr. Perez,
On roll 301, I found not sustained.
Mr. Dankoff.
Not sustained.
Now moving towards, I also vote not sustained.
By exception.
Mr. Perez?
Rule 301,
What section did you,
7,
just read it off? 7.62,
7.63, yeah.
okay, thank you,
voted.
and I voted not sustained.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move on to, what disciplinary measures? The board, the Civilian Review Board is recommending a 1-day suspension on counts 1 and 3, the respectful treatment and the operation of emergency or the parking.
Yes.
That's a
302,
Sorry.
that's a total, and that's a
Total 1 day.
total recommendation for both violations. Ms. De Leon, do you agree with that recommendation? Mr. Floresant, do you agree with that recommendation?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Smalls, do you agree?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Perez, do you agree?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Dankoff, do you agree?
Yes, sir.
And I also agree. Okay. And what,
That was the vote.
that was the
Yeah,
vote.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
That's good. That's good. Now we get out of, I think. it's-
So thank you all very much. The CRB has no more cases before today. We will move on to other business. And then there's a different person, PA, but I think.
Okay, as you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Does anybody have any additional business or outstanding questions to ask?
Yes, Chair, I do. As discussed in some previous meetings, I wanted to propose the creation of a policy subcommittee of the CRB, which is one to discuss and make recommendations on BPD policies, both existing and new policies, further to the ordinance.
Does anybody second?
Second.
Anybody else second?
I second.
I second.
In favor.
All right, we're all in favor. I will also second. I'm just gonna go along with the sheep here. We are, the motion is allowed. Yes. Sorry, we'll be more formal next time. Anything else? Anybody else have any business or outstanding questions to ask before we close the session? I really appreciate your patience today. Thank you very much for your hard work. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you so much.
Motion to end the meeting.
I moved to
Roll call.
Ms. De Leon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Florestan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Smalls, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Perez, how do you vote?
In favor.
Mr. Dankop, how do you vote?
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Harold also votes yes. Thank you.
All right, good job.